How can a single picture destroy a marriage in seconds? I'm about to tell you exactly how it happens, because I lived through every devastating moment of it. My name is Iseult Farron, and I'm 32 years old. I work as an admin assistant at a mid-sized marketing firm in suburban Ohio. I thought I was clever. I thought I was in control. I thought I could manipulate any situation to get what I wanted. I was wrong about everything. It started on a Tuesday evening in March. Nathan, my husband of 8 years, was working late again. He's an IT consultant, always buried in some client emergency or server crisis. At 35, he's methodical, quiet, and maddeningly calm about everything. That night, sitting alone in our living room, while our 7-year-old daughter Mara watched cartoons upstairs, I felt invisible. The house was too quiet. The walls seemed to close in on me. Nathan's empty coffee cup sat on the side table, a reminder of how he'd rushed out that morning without so much as a goodbye kiss. I scrolled through my phone, seeing posts from friends at restaurants, concerts, romantic date nights. Everyone else seemed to be living while I was just existing. That's when I saw it in my photo gallery, a picture from 3 years ago. Me and Elliot Brand, my ex-boyfriend, lying in bed together. It was taken during our affair last summer, when Nathan was traveling constantly for work. Elliot's arm was around me, both of us laughing at something off camera. We looked happy. We looked alive. Before I could think it through, I posted it. The caption read, "I miss this." Within minutes, the likes started rolling in. Heart emojis, fire emojis, comments from friends asking, "Who's this?" And, "Girl, you look so happy here." My sister Jules was the first to comment, "You deserve to feel this alive." The attention felt like oxygen after holding my breath for months. Finally, someone was seeing me. Finally, I mattered. Nathan came home at 9:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock, wondering if he'd even notice I'd been gone all day emotionally. He walked through the front door with his laptop bag slung over his shoulder, his tie loosened, looking exhausted. "Hey," he said, setting his keys on the entry table. "Mara asleep?" "Since 8:30. I didn't look up from my phone, where I was responding to comments on my post. The likes had climbed to 43. Nathan headed to the kitchen, probably to grab his usual late-night snack of crackers and cheese. I heard the refrigerator open and close, heard him moving around. Normal sounds of our normal, boring life. Then his phone buzzed. I heard him pause. Then his phone buzzed again. And again. "Iseult," his voice carried from the kitchen, and something in his tone made me look up. "Can you come here for a minute?" I found him standing by the counter, holding his phone. His face was pale, and his jaw was set in that way it gets when he's processing something difficult. "What's wrong?" I asked, though my stomach was already dropping. He turned his phone toward me. On the screen was my Instagram post, tagged by his coworker Derek with the message, "Dude, you need to see this." "Why did you post this?" Nathan's voice was quiet, controlled. Too controlled. "It's just a picture," I said, crossing my arms. "It doesn't mean anything." "It's a picture of you in bed with another man, and you said you miss it, on a public platform where our friends, our family, and my coworkers can see it." He set his phone down carefully. "So I'll ask again, why did you post this?" The rational part of my brain knew I should apologize, delete the post, and try to explain. But the part of me that had been starving for attention, for any kind of reaction from him, doubled down instead. "Maybe because I'm tired of feeling invisible in my own marriage," I snapped. "When's the last time you looked at me the way Elliot did? When's the last time we laughed together like that?" "Elliot?" Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Your coworker, Elliot? The one who's married to Leah?" My silence was answer enough. Nathan stared at me for a long moment. Then he did something that scared me more than yelling would have. He nodded slowly, like pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. "I see," he said quietly. "How long?" Nathan, it's not what you think. How long, Iseult? Last summer. Just a few times. It didn't mean anything. He picked up his phone and scrolled through my post again, reading the comments. Jules had added another one. Life's too short to settle for boring. You go, girl. 47 likes, he said, his voice eerily calm. Your sister thinks it's inspiring. Derek's wife asked if we're having problems. My mother called me 10 minutes ago, but I was driving, so I didn't answer. The reality of what I'd done started to sink in. Nathan, I can delete it. I was just upset, and I wasn't thinking. No. He set his phone down and looked directly at me. Don't delete it. Leave it up. What? You posted it for a reason. You wanted people to see it, so leave it up. He turned and walked toward the stairs. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Nathan, wait. But he was already gone, his footsteps echoing up the stairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, my phone still in my hand, watching the likes continue to climb. 51, 53, 55. I'd wanted attention. I'd gotten it, but as I stood there listening to Nathan move around upstairs, gathering pillows and blankets for the guest room, I realized I might have gotten more than I bargained for. The next few days passed in tense silence. Nathan left for work before I woke up and came home after Mara's bedtime. When we did cross paths, he was polite but distant. Like I was a stranger he was being courteous to. The post stayed up. By Thursday, it had over 100 likes and dozens of comments. Some friends were supportive, others seemed confused, and a few were clearly fishing for gossip. Leah Brand, Elliot's wife, had liked the post but hadn't commented. That worried me more than I wanted to admit. Friday night was our monthly dinner with Nathan's family and our close friends at Romano's, a local Italian restaurant we'd been going to for years. I'd completely forgotten about it until Nathan reminded me that morning. We're still going tonight, he said, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. 7 o'clock. Maybe we should cancel, I suggested. Things are weird right now. No, we're going. He picked up his keys. Unless you're planning to post about that too. The comment stung, but I deserved it. That evening, I spent an hour getting ready, choosing a red dress that I knew looked good on me. If people were going to stare and whisper, I wanted to look confident. I wanted to control the narrative. We arrived at Romano's to find our usual table already occupied by Nathan's brother Martin and his wife, Nathan's mother Ruth, and our friends Derek and his wife Amanda. The conversation stopped when we approached. There they are, Martin said, standing to hug us both. His embrace felt forced. Ruth, Nathan's 62-year-old mother, gave me a cool nod. Iseult. You look well. Coming from Ruth, that was practically an insult. She'd always been polite to me, but I could tell she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. Tonight, her disapproval was barely concealed. We sat down, and the conversation resumed awkwardly. Derek mentioned work, Amanda talked about their upcoming vacation, and Martin discussed his latest home renovation project. Everyone was working hard to act normal. I ordered wine, then more wine. By the time our entrees arrived, the alcohol had given me courage, or stupidity. Looking back, it's hard to tell the difference. So, I said, cutting into my chicken parmesan, I guess everyone saw my Instagram post this week. The table went quiet. Nathan continued eating like I hadn't spoken. It's caused quite a stir, I continued, taking another sip of wine. Amazing how a simple picture can get people so worked up. Iseult, Ruth said quietly. Perhaps this isn't the best place. No, it's fine, I interrupted. I mean, we're all adults here. We can talk about it. I looked around the table. I posted a picture with an old friend, and suddenly everyone's acting like I committed a crime. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Amanda stared at her pasta. Martin glanced at Nathan, who was still eating in silence. The thing is, I continued, emboldened by their discomfort, maybe if my husband paid half as much attention to me as he does to his computer, I wouldn't need to reminisce about times when I felt appreciated. That got Nathan's attention. He set down his fork and looked at me. "You felt appreciated," he said calmly, "when you were cheating on me with a married man." The words hung in the air like a bomb. Amanda gasped. Derek choked on his wine. Ruth's face went white. "I wasn't cheating," I said quickly, realizing I'd pushed too far. "It was just—" "You were in bed with Elliot Brand," Nathan continued in that same calm voice. "Last summer, while I was working in Chicago for 3 weeks, you brought him to our house, to our bed, and took pictures." "Nathan, please," I whispered, suddenly aware that other diners were starting to stare. "And then you posted one of those pictures on social media with a caption about missing it." He picked up his water glass. "So when exactly was it not cheating?" Ruth stood up abruptly. "I think I need some air." She walked away from the table without another word. Martin leaned forward. "Jesus, Iseult, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking," I said, my voice rising, "that I'm tired of being married to someone who treats me like a roommate. Nathan works constantly. He never talks to me, and when he is home, he's on his laptop. I felt lonely." "So you decided to humiliate him publicly?" Derek asked, "in front of his family and co-workers?" "I didn't mean for it to—" "Yes, you did." Nathan's quiet voice cut through my protest. "You meant for everyone to see it. You wanted them to know you had options. You wanted to hurt me." I stared at him, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but something colder, something calculating. "You're being dramatic," I said weakly. Nathan stood up and pulled out his wallet. He placed $60 on the table, enough to cover our meals and tip. "I'm going home to check on Mara," he said to the table. "Thank you for dinner." He walked away without looking at me. I sat there, face burning with embarrassment, as our friends and family stared at me in uncomfortable silence. Amanda was the first to speak. "Iseult, honey, maybe you should go after him." "He's the one being unreasonable," I said, finishing my wine. "It was just a picture." "A picture of you in bed with another man," Martin said bluntly, "while you're married to my brother." "People need to stop being so uptight about everything," I muttered. Derek and Amanda exchanged a look. "We should probably head home," Derek said, standing up. "It's getting late." They left quickly, barely saying goodbye. Martin lingered for a moment. "Iseult, I don't know what's going on with you and Nathan, but that post, it's not just about you two anymore. Everyone's talking about it. His co-workers, his clients, people at Mara's school. You need to think about what this is doing to him professionally." "Maybe he should have thought about that before ignoring me for months," I shot back. Martin shook his head and left. I sat alone at the table, finishing the bottle of wine and watching other couples enjoy their Friday night dinners. Normal couples who didn't air their problems on social media. Couples who looked happy. When I finally got home, Nathan's car was in the driveway, but the house was dark, except for the guest room upstairs. I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Mara's at my mother's for the weekend. She called and asked if she could have a sleepover." Even Nathan's 7-year-old daughter was being turned against me. I went upstairs and knocked on the guest room door. No answer. I tried the handle, but it was locked. "Nathan," I called softly, "can we talk?" Silence. I went to our bedroom, my bedroom now, apparently, and lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling and wondering how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. Monday morning at work was a nightmare. I could feel people staring as I walked through the office. Conversation stopped when I approached. By lunch, it was clear that everyone knew about the post and the dinner disaster. Elliot had been avoiding me since the post went live, but I cornered him by the coffee machine around 2 o'clock. "We need to talk," I said quietly. "No, we don't." He glanced around nervously. "Leah saw your post, Iseult. She's asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "The kind I can't answer without making things worse." He poured his coffee quickly. "This was a mistake, all of it." You didn't think it was a mistake when you were telling me how beautiful I was, I hissed, when you were saying Nathan didn't deserve me. Keep your voice down. Elliot's face was flushed. Look, what happened between us is over. It has to be. My marriage is on the line here. What about my marriage? Your marriage. He stared at me incredulously. You're the one who posted the picture, Isalt. You're the one who blew everything up. Don't blame me for your choices. He walked away, leaving me standing alone by the coffee machine. I felt eyes on me from every direction. At 3:30, the receptionist called my desk. Isalt, there's someone here to see you. I walked to the lobby and found Leah Brand waiting. She was 34, blonde, and normally very composed. Today, she looked like she was barely containing her rage. We need to talk, she said. Outside. I followed her to the parking lot, my heart pounding. Leah had always been friendly to me at company parties and social events. We weren't close friends, but we'd never had any problems. That picture you posted, she said, turning to face me. Where was it taken? Leah, Where? Was it taken? It doesn't matter now. It's in the past. It was taken in your bedroom, wasn't it? Her voice was shaking. In the bed you share with your husband. I didn't answer, but my silence confirmed it. How long? She demanded. How long has my husband been sleeping with you? It wasn't like that. It was just a few times, and it's over. A few times? Leah's voice rose. A few times in your marital bed while your husband was traveling for work. We were both lonely, I said desperately. It didn't mean anything to either of us. It meant something to you. You posted about missing it. Leah stepped closer. Do you have any idea what you've done? Elliot's been lying to me for months. Months, Isalt. And you've been smiling at me at parties, asking about my kids, pretending to be my friend. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But people did get hurt. Your husband, my children, me. And for what? A few afternoons of attention. Leah's eyes were blazing. You're pathetic. You don't understand what my marriage is like, I protested. Nathan is cold and distant. He never... So you decided to destroy 2 families instead of talking to a marriage counselor. Leah shook her head. You're not just pathetic, you're selfish. She started to walk away, then turned back. I'm telling Nathan everything. If you don't, I will. Elliot already confessed when I confronted him this morning. Nathan deserves to know exactly what kind of person he married. Leah, please. You have until tomorrow. She got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot. I spent the rest of the day in a panic. I called Jules, but she didn't answer. I texted Nathan asking if we could talk when he got home, but he didn't respond. When I arrived home that evening, Nathan's car wasn't in the driveway. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Working late, don't wait up. But it was only 6 o'clock. Nathan never worked past 7 unless there was a real emergency. I tried calling him, straight to voicemail. I paced the house, trying to figure out what to say, how to explain. The affair had been stupid, but it was over. We could work through this if Nathan would just listen. At 9 o'clock, I heard his car in the driveway. I positioned myself in the living room, rehearsing my speech about how sorry I was, how it meant nothing, how we could fix this. Nathan came through the front door and headed straight for the stairs without acknowledging me. Nathan, wait, we need to talk. He paused at the bottom of the stairs. About what? About Elliot, about last summer. I need to explain. Leah already explained. His voice was flat. This afternoon, she called me at work. My stomach dropped. Nathan, I'm sorry. I know how this looks, but... How it looks? He turned to face me. It looks like my wife had an affair with a married co-worker, brought him to our house, took pictures, and then posted one on social media to humiliate me. It wasn't about humiliating you. I was just feeling lonely and... Stop. Nathan held up his hand. Just stop talking. He went upstairs, and I heard the guest room door close. A few minutes later, I heard him moving around, opening and closing drawers. I crept up the stairs and listened at the door. It sounded like he was packing. "Nathan?" I knocked softly. "Are you leaving?" "No." His voice came through the door. "I'm organizing." "Organizing what?" No answer. The next morning, I found Nathan's wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. Just sitting there, like he'd casually taken it off and forgotten about it. But Nathan never forgot anything, and he never did anything casually. I picked up the ring and went upstairs. The guest room door was locked, and Nathan was already gone for work. I tried the door to his home office, also locked. Nathan had never locked doors in our house before. We'd always had an open-door policy, complete access to each other's spaces. Now I was being shut out, literally and figuratively. I called in sick to work and spent the day trying to figure out what Nathan was organizing. I searched through his dresser drawers, his closet, his desk in the living room. Everything looked normal, but something felt different. The house felt different, like Nathan was already gone, even though his clothes were still in the closet and his toothbrush was still in the bathroom. That evening, when he came home, I tried to give him back his ring. "You forgot this," I said, holding it out. "No, I didn't." He walked past me toward the stairs. "Nathan, please, can we just talk about this like adults?" He stopped and looked at me. "Adults don't post pictures of their affairs on social media, Isalt. Adults don't humiliate their spouses in public. Adults don't bring their lovers into the marital bed. I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" His laugh was bitter. "Sleeping with Elliot was a mistake. Doing it in our bed was a choice. Taking pictures was a choice. Posting one with that caption was a choice. And doubling down at dinner instead of apologizing was a choice. You're right. You're absolutely right. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can't fix this, Isalt. Because you don't think you did anything wrong. Even now you're calling it a mistake instead of what it was. What was it? Betrayal. Calculated, deliberate betrayal." He went upstairs, leaving me alone with his wedding ring and the growing certainty that I'd lost something I could never get back. The weekend passed in eerie silence. Nathan spent most of Saturday in his locked office, coming out only for meals and bathroom breaks. When I tried to talk to him, he responded with polite, monosyllabic answers, like we were strangers sharing an elevator. Mara was still at Ruth's house. Every time I called to talk to her, Ruth would put her on the phone for exactly 5 minutes before finding some excuse to end the call. My own daughter was being kept from me. Sunday morning, I decided to take action. Nathan had left early, claiming he needed to go to the office to fix a server issue. I didn't believe him. Nathan rarely worked weekends unless there was a genuine emergency. I went to his home office and examined the lock. It was a simple doorknob lock, the kind you could pick with a credit card if you knew how. I'd seen it done in movies. It took me 20 minutes and 3 different cards, but I finally got the door open. Nathan's office looked exactly the same as always. His desk was neat, his computer was off, his files were organized in their usual folders. But something felt different. I sat down at his desk and tried to turn on his computer. Password protected. I tried our anniversary date, Mara's birthday, his mother's maiden name. Nothing worked. I opened his desk drawers. The top drawer had the usual supplies, pens, paper clips, sticky notes. The second drawer had files related to his work projects. Everything normal. The bottom drawer was locked. I'd never known Nathan to lock anything. We'd always had complete transparency in our marriage, or so I'd thought. Now I was discovering locks everywhere. I searched through his desk supplies until I found a small key taped under the pencil tray. It opened the bottom drawer. Inside, I found a manila folder labeled Archive and a USB drive with the same label. My hands were shaking as I opened the folder. The first page was a printed email from Nathan to his lawyer, dated 3 days ago. The subject line read, "Consultation request, divorce proceedings. My blood went cold. I flipped through the rest of the folder. Bank statements going back 6 months. Printouts of my text messages with Elliot. Somehow Nathan had gotten access to my phone records. Screenshots of my Instagram post and all the comments. A timeline of my activities last summer, including dates when Nathan was traveling and I'd called in sick to work. He'd been building a case against me. The USB drive contained more of the same. Photos, documents, recorded phone calls. Nathan had been methodically gathering evidence of my affair for months. Find what you were looking for. I spun around. Nathan was standing in the doorway, still wearing his jacket. He didn't look angry, just tired. How long have you known? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Since August. He set his keys on the desk. You left your phone unlocked one morning. I saw the text from Elliot about last night being amazing. Since August. That was 7 months ago. Why didn't you say anything? Because I needed to be sure. I needed evidence. He gestured to the folder in my hands. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made any decisions. You've been spying on me for 7 months. I've been protecting myself for 7 months. There's a difference. Nathan sat down in the chair across from his desk. I hired a private investigator in September. I had him document everything. The times you met Elliot, the hotels you went to, the lies you told me about working late. Hotels? I felt sick. You know about the hotels? The Marriott on 5th Street, the Holiday Inn by the airport, the bed and breakfast in Columbus when you told me you were visiting your college friend. Nathan's voice was clinical, detached. I have photos, receipts, credit card statements. I have everything, Iseult. I stared at the folder in my hands. What are you going to do? I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to file for primary custody of Mara, and I'm going to make sure you can't take half of everything I've worked for when you've spent the last year destroying our marriage. Nathan, please. I know I made mistakes, but stop calling them mistakes. His voice was sharp for the first time. You planned this. You chose this. Every lie, every hotel room, every text message. You chose Elliot over our family, and then you chose to humiliate me publicly when you got bored. I chose you, I said desperately. I'm still here. I ended things with Elliot. I want to work on our marriage. You ended things with Elliot because his wife found out and threatened to expose you. You want to work on our marriage because you're realizing there are consequences to your actions. Nathan stood up. But it's too late for that now. It's not too late. We can go to counseling. We can start over. We can't start over because I don't trust you. I don't believe anything you say. And I don't love you anymore. The words hit me like a physical blow. You don't mean that. I do mean it. I've spent 7 months watching you lie to my face every day. I've watched you manipulate situations to make yourself the victim. I've watched you prioritize your own needs over our daughter's stability. Nathan picked up the USB drive. And then you posted that picture, and I realized you're not just selfish, you're cruel. I was hurt and angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to choose a picture that would cause maximum damage. You were thinking clearly enough to write a caption designed to humiliate me. You were thinking clearly enough to argue with me at dinner instead of apologizing. Nathan walked toward the door. You knew exactly what you were doing. So what happens now? Now you get a lawyer. You'll be served with papers this week. Nathan paused in the doorway. And Isalt, don't try to use Mara as leverage. I have documentation of every time you've prioritized your affair over her needs. Every school event you missed because you were with Elliot. Every lie you told her about why Mommy was working late. I would never hurt Mara. You already have. She's been asking me for months why Mommy seems sad all the time, why we don't talk anymore, why I sleep in the guest room. Nathan's jaw tightened. She blames herself, you know. She thinks she did something wrong. The guilt hit me like a tsunami. I didn't know she noticed. Children notice everything. They just don't always understand what they're seeing. Nathan started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. I'm changing the locks tomorrow. You can stay in the house until the divorce is finalized, but my office and the master bedroom are off limits. Where am I supposed to sleep? I honestly don't care. He left me sitting in his office, surrounded by evidence of my own destruction, finally understanding that I'd lost everything that mattered. Monday morning, I called in sick to work again. I couldn't face Elliot, couldn't handle the stares and whispers, couldn't pretend everything was normal when my world was falling apart. Nathan had indeed changed the locks. I'd found new deadbolts on his office door and our bedroom door, with a note explaining that I could sleep in the guest room or on the couch. I spent the morning calling lawyers. The first 3 I contacted couldn't see me for weeks. The 4th agreed to a consultation that afternoon, but warned me that divorce cases involving adultery and social media evidence were particularly challenging. By lunch, I was desperate. I drove to Nathan's office, hoping to catch him and convince him to reconsider. Maybe if we talked somewhere neutral, away from all the evidence and accusations, I could make him understand. The receptionist at his IT firm looked uncomfortable when I asked for Nathan. He's in a meeting, she said, not making eye contact. I can take a message. I'm his wife, I can wait. Actually, he left instructions not to be disturbed today. He said if you came by, I should ask you to call his lawyer. His lawyer? He already has a lawyer. I'm sorry, Mrs. Farron. I'm just passing along the message. I sat in the parking lot for 2 hours, waiting for Nathan to come out. When he finally appeared at 5:30, he was with Martin and another man I didn't recognize, probably his lawyer. I got out of my car and approached them. Nathan, please, just give me 5 minutes. Isalt, this is David Chen, my attorney. David, this is my wife. The lawyer stepped forward. Mrs. Farron, I've advised my client not to discuss the divorce proceedings outside of formal mediation. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with your legal representation present, I don't want a formal meeting. I want to talk to my husband. I looked at Nathan. Please, just 5 minutes. Nathan studied my face for a moment. Martin, can you and David give us a minute? They walked a few feet away, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give us privacy. What do you want, Isalt? I want to save our marriage. I want to fix this. I was crying now, not caring who saw. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But we have 8 years together. We have Mara. We have a life. That has to count for something. It did count for something, until you decided it wasn't enough. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean we have to throw away everything we built. You didn't make a mistake, Iseult. You made a series of deliberate choices over the course of months, and when I gave you the chance to come clean, to apologize, to try to fix things, you chose to humiliate me instead. I was angry and hurt. I felt like you didn't care about me anymore. So you decided to prove it by sleeping with someone else? Nathan shook his head. Do you hear yourself? You were upset that I was working too much, so you had an affair. You felt neglected, so you brought another man into our bed. You wanted my attention, so you posted a picture designed to destroy me publicly. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you're incapable of taking responsibility for your actions. Even now, you're making excuses. Nathan glanced at his lawyer. I have to go. Mara's expecting me for dinner. Can I see her? I haven't talked to my daughter in 3 days. She's staying with my mother until things settle down. It's better for her right now. Better for her or better for you. The words came out harsher than I intended. You're turning my own daughter against me. I'm protecting her from the chaos you created. Nathan's voice was cold. She doesn't need to see her mother served with divorce papers. She doesn't need to hear you making excuses for destroying our family. I'm not destroying our family. You are. You're the one filing for divorce. You're the one keeping Mara from me. I could feel my desperation turning into anger. I made a mistake, but you're the one giving up on us. I'm not giving up on us, Iseult. There is no us anymore. You ended us when you chose Elliot. Fine. I wiped my tears, feeling something cold settle in my chest. If you want to play hardball, we can play hardball. I'll fight you for custody. I'll tell everyone how cold and distant you are, how you prioritize work over family, how you drove me into another man's arms because you couldn't be bothered to be a real husband. Nathan stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled, not a happy smile, but something calculating and dangerous. Go ahead, he said quietly. Tell everyone how I worked 60-hour weeks to provide for my family while you were sleeping with your co-worker. Tell them how I traveled for business to pay for Mara's private school while you were taking pictures in hotel rooms. Tell them how I was distant and cold while you were lying to my face every single day. He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to a whisper. But remember, Iseult, I have evidence, photos, receipts, text messages, witness statements. I have 7 months of documented proof of your affair and your lies. What do you have? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. That's what I thought. Nathan walked back toward his lawyer. You'll get your papers tomorrow. After that, all communication goes through our attorneys. I stood alone in the parking lot, watching my husband drive away with his brother and his lawyer, finally understanding that Nathan wasn't the quiet, passive man I thought I could manipulate and control. He was strategic, he was prepared, and he was done with me. Tuesday morning, I was served with divorce papers at 7:43 a.m. by a professional process server who apologized for the early hour, but explained that he had instructions to deliver the documents as soon as legally possible. I signed for the thick manila envelope with shaking hands and waited until the server left before opening it. The first document was a petition for dissolution of marriage. The second was a request for temporary custody of Mara. The third was a motion to freeze our joint bank accounts pending asset division. But it was the fourth document that made my blood run cold. A detailed evidence file with photographs, bank statements, credit card records, and transcripts of text messages between me and Elliot. Nathan's lawyer had been thorough. Every hotel visit was documented with receipts and timestamps. Every lie I'd told was contradicted with evidence. When I claimed to be working late, my car was photographed in the Marriott parking lot. When I said I was visiting my sister, my credit card was used at a restaurant across town with Elliot. The Instagram post was included in full color, along with printouts of every comment and like. There were screenshots of my conversations with Jules, where I'd complained about Nathan being boring and emotionally unavailable. Most damaging of all was a statement from Mara's teacher, noting that I'd missed 3 parent conferences and 2 school events because I was working late, all on dates when I was actually with Elliot. I called the lawyer I'd consulted the day before, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, and begged for an emergency appointment. Mrs. Farron, she said after reviewing the documents, I'm going to be frank with you. This is one of the most comprehensive evidence files I've seen in an adultery case. Your husband's legal team has been preparing for this divorce for months. What does that mean for me? It means you have very little leverage. In Ohio, adultery can affect both asset division and custody arrangements. Your husband is asking for primary custody of your daughter and a disproportionate share of marital assets. Can he do that? Given the evidence he's presented, it's likely the court will rule in his favor. You admitted to the affair, you conducted it in the marital home, and you publicized it on social media. From a legal standpoint, you've demonstrated both infidelity and poor judgment. I felt like I was drowning. What are my options? You can fight it, but it will be expensive and you'll probably lose. Or you can negotiate a settlement that minimizes the damage. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Mrs. Farron, I have to ask, is there any evidence of abuse, neglect, or misconduct on your husband's part? Anything we can use to level the playing field? He's cold and distant. He works too much. He doesn't show affection. Those aren't legal grounds for anything. I mean, evidence of actual wrongdoing. I thought about it for a long moment. Nathan had never hit me, never threatened me, never done anything worse than ignore me. He was a good father, a reliable provider, and a faithful husband. His only crime was being boring. No, I admitted. There's nothing. Then I recommend you consider a settlement. Fighting this will cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and you'll likely end up with less than if you negotiate now. That afternoon, I tried calling Nathan directly. His phone went straight to voicemail. I tried calling his office, but the receptionist said he was unavailable and referred me to his lawyer. I drove to Ruth's house, hoping to see Mara and maybe talk some sense into Nathan's family. Ruth answered the door but didn't invite me in. "Is Mara here?" I asked. "I'd like to see my daughter." "She's at school," Ruth said coolly. "I'm picking her up at 3. "Can I pick her up instead? I haven't seen her in almost a week." Nathan asked me to handle school pickup until things are settled. "Ruth, please. I know you're angry with me, but Mara is my daughter. I have rights." "You should have thought about your rights before you posted that picture." Ruth's voice was ice cold. "That child has been asking me why everyone at school is talking about her mommy. What am I supposed to tell her?" "People at school know. People everywhere know, Iseult. Your post was shared on Facebook by at least a dozen people. Parents at Mara's school have seen it. Parents in Nathan's professional network have seen it. Everyone knows what you did." The reality hit me like a truck. I'd been so focused on my marriage falling apart that I hadn't considered the broader consequences. Nathan's reputation, Mara's social environment, our standing in the community, I'd damaged everything. I didn't think, no, you didn't think. You acted selfishly and impulsively, and now everyone is dealing with the consequences except you. Ruth stepped closer. "My son worked for 8 years to build a life with you. He provided for you, he was faithful to you, and he gave you a beautiful daughter. And you threw it all away for a few afternoons with a married man." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. And when Nathan tried to handle it privately, you humiliated him publicly." Ruth's eyes were blazing. "You don't deserve him, Iseult. You never did." She closed the door, leaving me standing on the porch. That evening, I sat alone in the guest room of what used to be my home, surrounded by legal documents and evidence of my own destruction. I tried calling Jules, but she didn't answer. I tried calling old friends, but most of them had seen the post and didn't know what to say. I was completely alone. At 9 o'clock, my phone rang. It was David Chen, Nathan's lawyer. "Mrs. Farron, I'm calling to discuss a settlement offer." "I'm listening." "My client is prepared to offer you joint custody of your daughter, with him having primary physical custody. You would have visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. You would receive 30% of marital assets instead of the standard 50%, and you would be responsible for your own legal fees. That's it. Given the circumstances, it's a generous offer. If this goes to court, you could end up with supervised visitation and 20% of assets. What if I refuse? Then we proceed to trial, where all of this evidence becomes public record. Every photo, every hotel receipt, every text message. Your affair will be documented in court filings that anyone can access." I closed my eyes. "How long do I have to decide?" 48 hours. After he hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about how I'd gotten here. A year ago, I'd been married to a successful, faithful man with a beautiful daughter and a comfortable life. I'd been bored, but I'd been secure. Now I was facing divorce, limited custody, and public humiliation. I'd lost my husband, my home, my reputation, and my daughter's respect. All for a few months of attention from a man who'd abandoned me the moment things got complicated. Wednesday morning, I called David Chen and accepted the settlement offer. Thursday afternoon, I signed the papers that officially ended my marriage. Nathan never spoke to me again. All communication went through lawyers, even about Mara's schedule and school events. 6 months later, I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. Nathan kept the house, Mara stayed in her school district, and I became a weekend visitor in my daughter's life. The Instagram post that started it all was eventually deleted, but screenshots lived forever. People in our social circle still talked about it. Nathan's co-workers still remembered. Mara's friends' parents still whispered. I'd wanted attention. I'd wanted to feel important, desired, alive. Instead, I'd destroyed everything that actually mattered. Nathan remarried 2 years later, a kind, intelligent woman who worked as a pediatric nurse. She was everything I wasn't, selfless, genuine, and completely devoted to the family she'd joined. Mara called her mom within a year. I see them sometimes at Mara's school events. Nathan looks happy in a way he never did with me. Peaceful, content. He found what he was looking for with someone who deserved it. As for me, I learned that some mistakes can't be undone, some words can't be taken back, and some pictures can destroy a life in seconds. I posted an old bed pic with my ex and said, I miss this. My marriage cracked in seconds, and I spent years learning that some things, once broken, can never be repaired. He left, and he did it properly, with evidence, with dignity, and with the law on his side.